contrast spoke to the infernal nature of this place. For days now they had stumbled over the bleached bones of horses, and worse, other lost souls, consigned to the waste of the 40 Mile. During the seemingly endless walk, Jim had found artifacts, partially eaten by the sand and clay. The cracked porcelain face of a little girl's doll. It made him think of Lottie. She'd be 7 now. A broken pocket watch held a sun-faded photograph of a stern-looking man dressed in a Union uniform. It reminded him of Pa. Jim wondered if some unfortunate wandering this path in the future would find a token of his and Promise's passing, the only record of his exodus through this godforsaken land, the only proof that he had ever existed at all. He fished the eye out of his trouser pocket and examined it in the unforgiving sunlight. It was a perfect orb of milky glass. Inlaid in the orb was a dark circle, and within it, a perfect ring of frosted jade. At the center of the jade ring was an oval of night. When the light struck the jade at just the right angle, tiny, unreadable characters could be seen engraved in the stone. It was his father's eye, and it was the reason for the beginning and the end of his journey. He put it back in a handkerchief and stuffed it in his pocket. Filled with an angry desire to deny it to the desert, he pressed onward, and Promise reluctantly followed. He had long ago lost track of concepts like time. Days were starting to bleed into one another as the buzzing in his head, like angry hornets, grew stronger and more insistent with each passing step. But he knew the sun was more before him now than behind him. He stopped again. When had he stopped to look at the eye? Minutes ago? Years? The wagon trails, fossilized and twisting through the baked landscape, had brought him to a crossroads in the wasteland. 2 rutted paths crossed near a pile of skulls. Most of the skulls belonged to cattle and coyotes, but the number that belonged to animals of the 2-legged variety unnerved Jim. Atop the pile was a piece of slate, a child's broken and discarded chalkboard, faded by sand, salt, and sun. On it, in red paint, written in a crude, looping scrawl, were the words, Golgotha, 18 miles. Redemption, 32 miles. Salvation, 50 miles. During Jim's few furtive days in Panacea after crossing over from Utah, he had been surprised by the number of Mormons in Nevada and how much influence they had already accumulated in this young state. There were numerous small towns and outposts dotting the landscape with the most peculiar religious names, marking the Mormon immigration west. He had never heard of any of these towns. But if there were people, there would be fresh water and shelter from the sun. See, Promise? Only 18 more miles to go, and we're home free, girl. He pulled the reins, and they were off again. He didn't much care for staying in a place named Golgotha, but he was more than willing to visit a spell. The trail continued, the distance measured by the increasing ache in Jim's dried-out muscles, the growing hum in his head that was obscuring thought. The sun was retreating behind distant, shadowy hills. The relief from the sun was a fleeting victory. Already a chill was settling over his red, swollen skin as the desert's temperature began to plunge. Promise shivered too and snorted in discomfort.